The lonely throne room. The grand crystal hall of the Celestine Empire shimmered with alien beauty. Golden pillars reaching the clouds, walls breathing with soft blue light. It was a day of royal ceremony, yet silence ruled the chamber. Rows of alien nobles stood tall, whispering among themselves as the princess entered. Princess Elira, youngest daughter of the Star Empress, wore a gown spun from starlight threads. Her silver eyes reflected galaxies, but sadness hid beneath their glow. She had reached the age where suitors from 1,000 worlds came to seek her hand, and one by one they all refused. The first prince, a warrior from the Orthal Dominion, bowed low but could not hide his disgust. "Your blood is too pure, too weak for the wars of the galaxy," he said, leaving his mark of shame behind. The second prince, heir to the Tralnok hive, looked upon her and hissed, "You do not understand conquest, you understand peace. That is your flaw," and left with laughter echoing. Each alien suitor found an excuse. Some mocked her gentle heart, others feared her royal power, but none saw her for who she truly was. A soul caught between duty and dream. She sat on her throne as the stars outside dimmed, her voice barely a whisper. Why do they all turn away? From behind the throne, her mother, the Star Empress herself, spoke softly. "Because you are different, Elira, and difference is what they fear most." Her tone held pride and warning. "But someday someone will not fear you. Someone will see what the galaxy refuses to." Elira looked to the great gates of the hall, where tomorrow yet another round of suitors would arrive. From distant worlds and forgotten moons she felt no hope left, only the echo of laughter that haunted her. Meanwhile, far beyond the Empire's reach, in the dark edge of the Orion sector, a human freighter cut through empty space, its engines roaring softly like a beating heart. Captain Elias Corrin stared out the viewport, sipping cold coffee as static hummed through the radio. Humans were newcomers in this galactic web, untrusted, unpredictable, underestimated. A message blinked on his console, an invitation mistakenly sent to a human address. "Royal Court of Celestine Empire requests attendance for the choosing of a consort to Princess Elira." He raised an eyebrow and laughed. "Guess they're desperate." His co-pilot smirked. "You're not thinking of going, are you?" Elias smiled, that half-crazy human kind of smile. Why not? Every alien prince rejected her. Maybe it's time someone different walked into that hall. The ship turned toward the Celestine star system, its hull gleaming against the void, unaware that one small decision was about to shake the foundation of 1,000 alien empires. The next sunrise over the Crystal Palace was like a song of fire and glass. Nobles filled the hall once again, whispering names of suitors and nations, and then the doors opened. A shadow walked in, tall, plain human. The guards stiffened, the crowd gasped. No alien had ever seen a human this close. Whispers turned into outrage. "A human? Here?" one shouted. "An animal from a death world dares walk before the throne?" Another hissed, but Elias didn't bow, he didn't tremble. He just looked up at the princess with calm eyes and said, "You deserve someone who doesn't fear you." The hall froze, the silence thicker than space itself. And in that moment, Elira's heart, for the first time, beat with something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The human's challenge. The moment the human's voice echoed in the crystal hall, the air itself seemed to shiver. Alien nobles turned their eyes toward him, their colors shifting in disbelief. They had seen strange species before, but never had a human stood in this sacred place. Never had one dared to speak so boldly. Princess Elira rose slowly from her throne, her gown flowing like liquid light. "You speak as if you know me, human," she said softly, her voice calm but her heart racing beneath the calm surface. Elias bowed slightly, not in fear, but in respect. "No, princess, I don't know you, but I know what it feels like to be judged before you even speak." The crowd hissed, their languages overlapping like a storm of venom. One alien prince, scaled and tall, stepped forward, his golden armor glinting. "This is an insult to the royal court," he growled. "Humans are primitives, destroyers. They have no place among the noble bloodlines." But Elias met his glare without flinching. "Maybe," he said, "but at least we still remember what courage looks like." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The alien prince's claws flexed. "You dare challenge me?" he hissed. "If your kind values courage, then prove it." Elira's eyes widened. She knew what was coming. The challenge ritual, ancient and deadly. No outsider had ever survived it. The Empress watched from her throne of light, her expression unreadable. "Very well," she said finally, her voice carrying across the hall like thunder. The human will face the trial of blades. If he survives, he may speak again. If not, his ashes will feed the gardens of Celestine. Elias smiled faintly. I'll take my chances, he said, and the nobles erupted in outrage. The floor beneath them shifted as glowing sigils lit up. Forming a dueling circle of blue fire, 2 guards approached, carrying weapons that shimmered like liquid metal. One extended toward the human, but he shook his head. I've got my own, he said, reaching behind his jacket and pulling out an old combat knife. Scratched, dull, but familiar. The alien prince laughed. You bring a toy to a royal duel? Elias twirled the blade once. It's not the weapon. It's the hand that holds it. The fight began. Sparks of energy filled the air. The alien lunged, his weapon slicing through light itself. But the human ducked, rolled, and moved like water, every motion born from years of surviving wars no one else remembered. The nobles gasped as his blade cut through alien armor with precision. The human was smaller, slower, but relentless. Elira watched, her breath caught between awe and fear. Every movement of his body defied logic. His wounds bled red, but his eyes never left his target. He wasn't fighting for glory or for pride. He was fighting because he said he would. Because he refused to back down. Finally, with one last strike, the alien prince's weapon clattered to the floor. Sparks fading into silence, Elias stood over him, panting, his knife steady. Yield, he said, and the hall went still. The prince hissed but dropped to one knee, defeated before the eyes of the court. The human stepped back, wiping the blood from his arm. He looked toward the throne. Do I get to speak again now? The empress's eyes glimmered with curiosity. You have earned that right, human, she said. Speak your truth. Elias looked at the princess. I didn't come here to win anything, he said quietly. I came because someone has to remind this galaxy that worth isn't measured by birth or blood. It's measured by choice. Elira's silver eyes softened. For the first time she smiled. You speak boldly, human, she said, and yet with honesty. Perhaps that is what our world has forgotten. The court remained silent, watching the strange connection that had formed between royal and outsider. No one dared to interrupt, not even the empress. The stars beyond the glass dome seemed to burn brighter, as if the universe itself had taken a breath that night. As the palace lights dimmed and the crowds dispersed, Elira stood alone on her balcony, her thoughts spinning like the galaxies before her. And far below in the royal guest quarters, Elias sat cleaning his blade, staring at the alien stars. Both knew something had changed, something neither the Empire nor humanity could ever undo. Because for the first time in galactic history, a human had stood unbowed before the Celestine throne, and the princess had smiled, and somewhere deep in the darkness of the cosmos, unseen eyes watched, whispering, "The humans have come." Whispers in the galactic shadows. News travels fast in the void, faster than light, faster than truth by the next rotation. Every corner of the galaxy was whispering the same impossible tale. A human walked into the Celestine court, faced a royal duel, and lived. In the floating palaces of the Orthal Dominion, generals slammed their fists on crystal tables. A human? One spat. Those savages from the death worlds? They cannot be allowed near royal blood. Their advisors nodded in fear, for they knew what humans were: unpredictable, emotional, and terrifying when cornered. On the hive world of Tralnok, the queen hissed from her cocooned throne. Humans breed chaos. They bring change where none is wanted. Her voice echoed through the tunnels as her drones prepared their fleets. Whispers spread like fire through dark corridors. The Celestines have lost their mind. But not all feared, some watched with interest. In the neutral star city of Virelion, merchants gathered in smoky halls. If a human can win favor in the Celestine court, one said, then maybe they're not beasts after all. Others leaned closer. Or maybe, one whispered, they're more dangerous than anyone imagined. Back in the Crystal Palace, Elira stood before her mirror, still wearing the silver emblem her mother had given her after the duel. It pulsed softly with her heartbeat. She had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human's face, his calm, his defiance, his honesty. She had never met someone who looked at her not as a princess, but as a person. The Empress entered quietly, her robes trailing light. You're thinking about him, she said. Elira didn't deny it. Mother, he is unlike anyone I've ever met. He doesn't see the universe the way others do. He doesn't see fear where they see power. The Empress studied her daughter's reflection. Her voice measured. Humans are from a death world. Forged by struggle, they bend when others break. But that strength cuts both ways. She placed a hand on Elira's shoulder. Be careful what you awaken. Meanwhile, deep in the lower quarters of the palace, Elias wandered through corridors humming with alien energy. Guards watched him with suspicion. Servants whispered as he passed. He could feel their stares, but he kept moving, curiosity guiding him. He entered a chamber lined with glowing relics, ancient weapons and symbols of empires long dead. A soft voice spoke behind him. You should not be here. It was Elira, her presence gentle but commanding. Curiosity's a bad habit of ours, he said. Turning with a grin, she smiled faintly. And yet it saved you in the hall. They walked among the relics, the silence between them filled with unspoken thoughts. Why did you really come? She asked. Humans aren't known for chasing royal invitations. He paused, his gaze distant. Because sometimes the universe gives you a door you're not supposed to walk through. And that's exactly why you should. Her laughter was soft, like a forgotten melody. You are reckless, she said. Maybe, he replied, but sometimes reckless is what changes everything. Outside, the twin moons of Celestine glowed, casting silver light through the stained crystal walls. Neither of them noticed the hidden surveillance drones, recording every word, transmitting it to faraway empires who waited, watching, planning. In the shadows of a distant asteroid belt, fleets began to move, small at first, like ripples on dark water. The Orthal War Council had declared a motion. Humans must be contained before they spread their influence. But the galaxy didn't understand. Humans didn't conquer with fleets. They conquered with hearts, with courage, with something no alien science could measure, and belief. Back in the palace, as Elira and Elias stood beneath the great crystal ceiling, a faint tremor shook the floor. Alarms whispered through the corridors. Distant but growing, she turned sharply, her expression darkening. That sound, she said. It's coming from the outer ring. Elias's hand went instinctively to his knife. Looks like someone's not happy with me crashing the party, he said. Half smiling, Elira's eyes glowed faintly with starlight. Then let's see if you can survive more than a duel. Human! The sound grew louder, the light flickered, and above the shimmering domes of the Celestine capital, the first alien warships appeared, not in peace, but in warning and far beyond, unseen in the cold darkness. Humanity's own ships stirred in reply, their commanders reading the same intercepted transmissions. One voice spoke across human command channels. If they touch one of ours, we move. The stars trembled. For the game had just begun. The first shot, across the stars, the sky above the Celestine capital split apart like glass struck by lightning. Warships descended in formation, their hulls covered in the marks of the Orthal Dominion. Crimson lines pulsing with energy. The empire that had once mocked the human now came armed and uninvited. Their message was clear. The galaxy would not allow a human to stand beside royal blood. Inside the Grand Palace, alarms blared through the crystalline corridors. Soldiers ran through glowing halls, and the Empress stood tall upon her balcony, her eyes burning with cold fire. They dare threaten my city, she whispered, her voice shaking the air. Elias watched from the lower terraces, the sky reflecting in his eyes. They're coming for me, he said quietly. No, Elira replied beside him. They're coming for what you represent. Her voice trembled. You've made them afraid, he smirked softly. Guess we're good at that. But his hand tightened on his knife. Instinct whispering of the danger ahead. Moments later, a projection burst to life in the throne hall. An Orthal general, scaled and broad-shouldered, his voice a low rumble. Celestine Empress, he said, you have allowed filth from the death worlds to stain your throne. Surrender the human, and we will leave your skies untouched. The Empress's gaze was ice. You dare issue threats in my court? She said, her words like the edge of a blade. The Celestine Empire bows to none. The general leaned forward, a cruel smile crossing his reptilian features. Then your empire burns with him, and the transmission cut. Outside, the air hummed with charging weapons. Alien cannons glowed red as energy built along the warship's spines. Elira's heart raced. Mother, the shields won't hold against their fleet, she said. We must evacuate the lower levels, but the Empress only looked toward the sky. We do not run from tyrants, Elias turned, already moving toward the hangar. If they want me, I'll give them a fight instead, Elira followed. You can't face a fleet, she said. You don't even have a ship, he stopped, smiled faintly. I didn't say I'd fight fair. In the royal hangar, rows of alien crafts waited, elegant, gleaming, made for ceremony, not war. But hidden among them was a human shuttle, small, ugly, and powerful. Elias had hidden it beneath a cloaking field when he first arrived. "You brought a warship to a royal banquet?" Illyra said, disbelief mixing with awe. "Old habits," he replied, climbing aboard. The engines roared. Shaking the air, the hangar's gates opened, and the shuttle shot into the light, straight toward the enemy formation. From the command bridge of the Orthal flagship, the general sneered. "One ship? A human toy?" He waved a claw. "Erase it." Dozens of energy lances streaked toward Elias's vessel, but at the last second the ship twisted sharply, releasing counter-flare pods that shimmered like stars. The blasts exploded harmlessly around him. Elias's voice echoed through the comms. "This is Captain Elias Corrin of the human vessel Nomad. And I don't like bullies." He pressed a switch and the shuttle's hull shifted, armor plates sliding open to reveal hidden weapons, railguns of human design. Crude but deadly. The first shot tore through an Orthal cruiser, splitting it in half. The second crippled their lead frigate. The third blew apart a destroyer's engine core. The sky became a storm of fire and fury. From the palace, Illyra watched in awe, the tiny human ship dancing through the stars, fighting entire fleets with impossible precision. Every maneuver defied gravity and fear alike. "He's not fighting to win," the Empress murmured. "He's fighting to prove a point," and he did. The galaxy watched in silence as human engineering met alien arrogance, and for the first time, alien commanders whispered the same words across encrypted channels. "They are not supposed to be this strong." But victory came with cost. The Nomad took a hit. One wing shattered. Alarms screamed. Flames burst through the cockpit. Elias cursed and slammed his hand on the console. "Not yet," he growled, forcing the ship toward the flagship. "If I'm going down, I'm taking your arrogance with me." The Nomad rammed the Orthal command vessel. A burst of light swallowed the horizon. The explosion echoed across the planet's surface, shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere. Silence followed, broken only by the soft hum of falling debris. Illyra pressed her hand against the glass, her voice breaking. "Elias," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "No," the Empress said softly, her expression unreadable. "He is human, they never die quietly." Hours later, amid the smoke and ruins of the orbital field, a distress beacon blinked weakly, human frequency, faint but alive. Somewhere inside the wreckage of the Nomad, a voice coughed, half laughing, half broken. "Still here," Elias muttered. "Told you I don't bow easy." And far across the stars, every species that heard the tale began to ask the same question, whispered in fear. What happens when the humans stop fighting for others and start fighting for themselves? The human who wouldn't die smoke drifted like black fog above the Celestine skyline. The dawn sun fractured through it, turning the sky to molten gold. Rescue crafts scattered across the wreck field where the Nomad had fallen. Alien engineers whispered prayers, none expecting to find the human alive. Princess Illyra stood at the edge of the crash zone, her silver robes torn, her eyes fixed on the broken hull of the human vessel. She could feel it, something calling her. Not through sound, but through the strange pull of will. She stepped forward as guards tried to stop her. "Your Highness, it's not safe," one said. "He saved us," she whispered. "I will not let him die alone." Through the debris, sparks flickered, metal groaned, and then a voice, weak but alive. "You really know how to throw a party," Elias rasped. His face pale, but his grin still stubborn. Illyra dropped to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his armor. "You're insane," she said softly, half laughing, half crying. "Yeah," he breathed. But it worked. Medics rushed forward, carrying him to the palace infirmary, strange alien technology humming around him. Yet none could explain how his body still clung to life. Burns, fractures, internal wounds, and by all logic, he should have been gone, but his heart kept beating, steady and defiant. Outside, the Empress faced her council, their voices sharp with anger. "This cannot continue," one shouted. "He is a threat. His kind is chaos," another hissed. "Already. The Orthal fleet has declared vengeance. The Tralnok swarm is gathering. And now the neutral worlds rally behind humanity's name." The Empress listened, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we have misjudged what chaos truly is." The council fell silent. "You fear humans because they remind you of what we lost. Courage." Her gaze turned distant. "He saved my city when no alien dared move." In the infirmary, Illyra sat by Elias's side as he slept. tubes and wires connected to his body, machines whispering his pulse in glowing light. She had never felt this strange ache in her heart before. Something between admiration and fear. "Why did you come here?" she murmured. "You could have lived a peaceful life on Earth," his voice came, rough but clear. "Peace is earned," he said, eyes still closed, "and some things are worth breaking for." That night, storms gathered over the capital, strange energy pulsing through the sky. In the council's secret chambers, spies delivered grim news. The Orthal Dominion had issued an ultimatum: hand over the human or face full-scale war. The Empress stood before the great galactic map, the stars flickering like dying candles. She spoke quietly to her generals. "If we surrender him, we surrender our soul." But even she knew what it meant. One man's defiance had drawn the gaze of empires. When Elira heard the council's decision, that Elias would be handed to the Orthal to prevent war, something inside her broke. She confronted her mother in the throne hall. "You cannot," she cried. "They'll torture him. They'll make an example of him." The Empress's eyes were weary. "My child, a single life cannot outweigh billions." Elira's voice trembled. "It's not about one life. It's about what he represents. If we give him up, we prove them right, that fear rules us." For a moment, silence stretched between mother and daughter. Then the Empress turned away. "You are still young," she said softly, "and young hearts do not yet understand the weight of a crown." That night, Elira made her choice. Beneath the sleeping palace, she slipped through hidden corridors, her cloak wrapped tight. Guards turned their heads as if guided by unseen forces. She reached the infirmary where Elias lay awake. When he saw her, he smiled faintly. "Didn't expect visitors this late," she whispered. "You're leaving," he blinked. "I am?" She held out a crystal key, glowing faintly blue. "This opens the southern hangar. There's an old transport there if you stay. They'll send you to die." Elias looked at her, eyes searching hers. "And what about you?" Her voice caught. "I'll face the storm when it comes." He reached out, took her hand. "You don't have to." Footsteps echoed down the hall, and guards. Coming fast, she pushed him toward the exit. "Go," she said, "before it's too late." But Elias shook his head. "I don't run from fights." She met his gaze, silver against blue. "Then let's run together." They slipped into the night as alarms began to ring across the palace. Two figures against the glow of the city. One royal, one human. Both hunted. Both bound by something the galaxy had forgotten. Trust. And far away, beyond the edge of the known stars, Human Command detected a faint distress signal. The words cracked through static. "Celestine Empire. Human under threat. Request immediate aid." The response came within seconds. A voice cold and certain. "Deploy the Vanguard fleet, because when one human is in danger, humanity never comes alone over the Celestine capital." But the darkness did not bring calm. It brought the hum of pursuit. Patrol drones streaked through the clouds. Searchlights cut across the shining towers, and every channel across the Empire carried one order: find the princess, find the human. Elias and Elira raced through the lower levels, where the elegant beauty of the palace gave way to metal veins and engine fumes. Her silver gown was torn and stained, his armor scorched and dented, yet both moved with the same purpose: freedom. "Your people will hunt you for this," Elias said as they ran through the maintenance tunnels. "You'll lose everything," she smiled faintly, breathless but fierce. "If everything I have is fear, then it's worth losing." They reached the southern hangar. Silent, abandoned, bathed in the pale light of twin moons. A forgotten transport ship rested there, old and rusted but alive, as if waiting for them. Elias began to power it up, his hands steady. "We'll need to clear orbit before they scramble interceptors," he muttered. "Can you fly this?" Elira tilted her head. "I can fly anything that listens." Engines roared, the ship trembled, and the floor beneath them cracked as energy cannons struck the hangar from above. "They've found us!" she shouted. "Then let's make it quick," Elias barked, pulling the throttle. The ship lurched forward, breaking through the shields and blasting into the sky. Below, the Empress watched from her balcony, her heart a battlefield between pride and pain. She whispered to herself, "So this is what destiny looks like," as the royal guards shouted reports of the fleeing vessel. Her eyes lifted to the heavens, and what she saw made her breath stop. The stars shifted not because they moved, but because something arrived. A ripple tore through space, bright as dawn. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, dark, Angular, unmistakably human, the human vanguard fleet. A legend whispered by alien tacticians was now a reality above Celestine skies. Their ships bore no banners, only scars and resolve. The lead vessel, HSS Resolute, opened a channel. A voice filled the frequencies, deep, steady, and cold. "This is Admiral Kepler of the human vanguard fleet. We have detected aggression toward human personnel. Stand down immediately or prepare for response." The Celestine defense grid powered up, energy lines snaking across the atmosphere. Commanders shouted in panic. They crossed the quarantine zone. No fleet has ever reached our core. But the Empress raised a hand. "Silence," she said, her gaze fixed on the fleet that hung above like judgment. "Let them speak." In orbit, Elias and Alira's transport was caught between both forces, alarm screaming, her voice tight with fear. "Your people are here," she said. "They came for you." Elias shook his head. "No, they came because they don't leave anyone behind." He opened the comms. Static hissing. "This is Captain Elias Corrin aboard Celestine Transport. The Princess is with me. We're not your enemies." There was silence for a moment. Then Admiral Kepler's voice replied, "Understood, Captain. Hold position. We have eyes on you." But below, the Orthal Dominion was already moving, their fleets entering the system, drawn by vengeance and fear, hundreds of ships cutting across the void. And in the middle of it all, one human, one alien princess, and two empires standing at the edge of war. On the Resolute's bridge, the tactical officer turned. "Admiral, we're reading multiple FTL signatures, Dominion warships inbound." Kepler's eyes narrowed. "Then this isn't a rescue anymore," he said. "It's a declaration." Elira stared out the viewport as the darkness filled with red light. "They'll destroy each other," she whispered. "Your people, mine. All for a mistake that wasn't meant to happen." Elias's voice was calm but heavy. "Then let's make it mean something." He activated the ship's beacon, broadcasting across all frequencies, his voice echoing across the galaxy. "This is Captain Elias Corrin of Earth. To all who can hear me, this war is not between species, it's between fear and courage. And I choose courage." The transmission spread like wildfire. Across fleets, across empires, across the stars themselves. Soldiers paused. Civilians listened. Even commanders hesitated. And for the first time in generations, silence fell on the galactic comms. The Empress closed her eyes, her lips trembling. "He speaks like a conqueror," she said. "No," she corrected herself. "He speaks like a human." The battle never began that night. The fleets held position, engines burning but silent. And in that fragile pause, something ancient shifted. The idea that humanity was small, weak, forgettable, died quietly in the starlight. Alira looked at him, her eyes glowing with soft silver tears. "You changed everything," she said. Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe," he replied, "but you helped me start it." And as their ship drifted between two worlds, one built on tradition and one on defiance, the stars themselves seemed to bend closer, watching the moment that would be remembered as the night humanity spoke and the galaxy listened. The new dawn of two empires, the dawn after the standoff, rose strange and silent. The light of two suns bathed the Celestine capital in soft gold, the air still heavy with the scent of ozone and smoke. Yet for the first time in ages, no ships fired, no cities burned, no cries echoed through the void. In the throne hall of the Celestine Empress, the council gathered again, but their voices were subdued. The memory of the human fleet above their skies haunted them. "They could have destroyed us," one murmured, "and yet—" "They didn't," another added. "They only came for him." The Empress stood tall and radiant, though the sleepless night etched sorrow into her face. "No empire survives forever," she said quietly. "But perhaps if we are wise, ours will endure by learning rather than conquering." Her gaze drifted toward the stars. Summon the princess, outside the city. In the quiet fields beyond the crystal walls, Elias and Elira stood together watching the sunrise, the world around them still humming with the aftershock of what they had done. He wore a borrowed Celestine cloak, she a simple traveler's robe. Their differences seemed smaller now beneath the same sky. "You changed your mother's empire," Elias said. Voice soft but proud, Elira smiled faintly. "No, you did," she replied. "I only followed a mad human into the storm." He laughed. "Then I guess madness has its uses." Their moment was broken by the low rumble of approaching vessels. A shuttle descended, marked with both banners, the Celestine crest and the insignia of the human vanguard. The ramp lowered, and from it stepped the Empress herself. escorted by Admiral Kepler, the two most powerful leaders in known space standing side by side. The Empress's gaze softened as she approached. "You have defied my laws, risked my empire, and nearly brought ruin upon us all," she said, her tone sharp, yet her eyes shimmered with warmth. "And yet, you reminded us of something ancient, that worth is not born, it is chosen." She turned to Kepler. "Your kind are as fierce as legend claims, Admiral." He nodded respectfully. "And your people, Majesty, are as proud as the stars. But pride alone doesn't keep you alive, trust does." Silence followed. And then the Empress raised her hand, her voice echoing across the plain.
"Let it be known across the galaxies. The Celestine Empire recognizes humanity as an equal sovereign race."
"And an ally." Aelira's breath caught. The words hung in the air like the birth of a new age. Kepler's voice answered, firm and resonant. "Then let history record this day as the dawn of the conquered." Between Celestine light and human flame, from orbit, the human fleet began to turn, their ships slowly dispersing, leaving trails of light that curved across the horizon like silver comets, while Celestine cities below erupted in cautious celebration. Two species once divided by fear, now bound by something greater. Later that night, in the quiet gardens of the palace, Elira and Elias walked beneath the starlit trees, the air calm, the future uncertain. "You'll leave soon," she said softly. "Your people will call you back," he nodded. "Maybe," he said, "but part of me will always stay here." She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. "Then maybe part of me will go with you." He smiled, not in triumph, but in peace. "Guess that makes us both explorers now." Above them, the stars shifted again, not from ships or fire, but from life, from something vast and new awakening. Stories of this moment would travel across systems, whispered in bars, sung by traders, taught to children, the story of the princess and the human who changed the sky. And somewhere deep in the endless dark between worlds, the universe seemed to whisper back the same words. Carried on cosmic wind, humanity has spoken and the stars listened.